All right, picture this. You're sitting at the gate, your boarding pass is ready, your bags are packed, and your mind is completely at ease. You're just ready to go. Then an officer walks right up to you and asks to see your phone. And I don't mean they want to scan your boarding pass. They want your actual unlocked phone. By the time we hit 2026, this is going to be happening way more often than most travelers realize. And I promise you, it is definitely not random. So today in this explainer, we're going to look at exactly why border agents are trained to look at our devices so differently now, and how what they find in those quick searches could literally change your entire trip. You know, when you see a question like this, your absolute first instinct is probably to think, well, I have nothing to hide. I'm not doing anything illegal, so I'm fine. But as the source material for today's explainer points out, that is actually the exact blind spot that gets people in trouble. This situation, it is rarely about actively hiding something dangerous. It's almost entirely about how something innocent looks completely out of context. A totally harmless meme, an old text message from a buddy, or just some random screenshot can look incredibly suspicious to an officer who doesn't know you from Adam. So here's our agenda for the explainer today. We're going to cover TSA versus border protection, the out-of-context trap, hidden apps and cloud leaks, the panic-wiping mistake, and finally, a super practical 30-day cleanup routine. Okay, let's dive right into Section 1, TSA versus border protection. Now, most of us just kind of assume that TSA and Customs and Border Protection, CBP, has the exact same powers. But that assumption right there is a huge trap. TSA officers at those standard security checkpoints, they're screening for physical weapons and immediate physical threats. That's it. They absolutely do not have the legal authority to just start scrolling through your text messages. CBP, on the other hand, operates right at the border, and the border is treated as its own entirely unique legal zone. Inside this specific zone, they can actually search the digital contents of your phone without a warrant. The normal privacy rules we're used to just don't apply there. And if you refuse, well, for U.S. citizens, they can't deny you entry, but they can and will detain your device, sometimes for days. And if you're a visitor or a green card holder, the stakes are way higher. Refusing can lead to massive delays, intense questioning, or even being denied entry entirely. No joke. Moving right along to Section 2, the out-of-context trap. Think about how you text your closest friends. Now, imagine a complete stranger who is actively looking for threats, reading those exact texts with zero sense of humor. That is what we call context collapse. It happens when a joke, a meme, or a random political debate is read entirely literally by an officer. Look, at home, your opinions are your opinions, but an officer reviewing a phone is just scanning for red flags. They aren't reading for nuance. A super sarcastic text or a heated political debate can totally shift an officer's perception of you in a matter of seconds. And let's be totally clear here. This isn't about taking sides or who's right or wrong in those political debates. Not at all. It's simply about how incredibly fast a bad assumption forms when a total stranger reads fragments of your life with zero background on who you actually are. So the crucial point is knowing exactly what to look out for on your own device. Just take a look at this hit list. We all have these, right? Every friend group has a contact saved under some bizarre inside joke nickname or a ridiculously sarcastic group chat title. The thing is, border officers aren't laughing along with your friends. They are going to read those labels completely literally. The same exact rule applies to random screenshots of memes you saved months ago, intense political texts, or even public social media check-ins from sensitive areas. Changing a joking contact name back to a real name or just deleting an old meme, that costs you absolutely nothing. But leaving it on your phone, that could buy you a 3-hour interrogation you really didn't plan for. All right, Section 3, hidden apps and cloud leaks. Now, here's something that almost everyone completely overlooks. Deleting an app or swiping a photo into the trash bin does not automatically delete its history. Not even close. Traces of that data are constantly left behind in caches, temporary storage, and, the big one, cloud backups. The forensic tools used at certain borders can recover way more than a casual delete accounts for. If your connected cloud account is just quietly auto-syncing in the background while you sleep, a so-called deleted photo might still be perfectly retrievable during a secondary border screening. Because of this, you really need to audit your high-risk apps. And honestly, this perfectly illustrates why international travel requires a completely different mindset. Take dating apps, for instance. In certain countries, the content or even just the conversations inside these apps might conflict with really strict local laws regarding relationships. It's not about an officer judging you. It is strictly about varying global laws.
Then think about crypto wallets. Crypto obviously isn't inherently illegal, but having unexplained access to massive funds on a financial app that an officer might not fully understand, that's going to trigger intense financial scrutiny. It just requires way more explaining than an officer has time for. Basically, if you don't absolutely need it for your specific trip, just remove it.
Which brings us to Section 4, the panic wiping mistake. Okay, so you might be thinking, I'll just delete everything the night before my flight. Please do not do that. Officers are highly trained to notice patterns. A phone that looks recently and heavily deleted raises massive red flags. Think of it like walking into a lived-in house versus walking into a scrubbed crime scene that smells like bleach. A suspiciously scrubbed phone has totally empty folders, missing months of message history, or looks like it just had a fresh factory reset. When an officer sees that unnatural gap, it literally forces them to ask, okay, what exactly are you hiding? Contrast that with a normal, lived-in phone. That phone has an authentic daily history, a few boring everyday photos, normal app usage, regular texts about groceries. If your phone suddenly looks totally empty the day before you fly, the emptiness itself becomes the suspicious story.
Okay, let's get practical. Section 5, the 30-day cleanup routine.
The absolute safest approach here is building a gradual, rolling habit. You don't want to do this all at once. In week 1, just start reviewing your photos and screenshots. Delete the unnecessary junk in small batches. Easy. Week 2, take a look through your contacts and group chats. Rename those inside jokes to normal names and maybe archive some of those old heated arguments. Week 3 is your app audit. Log out of social media accounts you don't need and remove those crypto or dating apps if they aren't essential for the trip. Finally, week 4, right before you depart, simply pause your automatic cloud syncs. Doing this on a gradual timeline ensures your phone actually looks naturally maintained over time, rather than frantically scrubbed in an airport bathroom right before inspection.
Now look, even with a beautifully clean phone, you still might be asked to unlock it. If that happens, staying calm and polite matters so much more than trying to be clever or overly defensive. Your tone completely shapes the interaction. You are absolutely allowed to respectfully ask clarifying questions. Things like whether this is a request or a strict legal requirement and what their specific concern might be. But whatever you do, avoid arguing, raising your voice, or trying to negotiate your way out of it. Calm, boring cooperation and very clear boundaries will get you out of that screening room infinitely faster than putting up a fight.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that the absolute smartest frequent flyers out there, they don't even bring their primary digital life with them. They use a dedicated travel phone. It's the ultimate pro move. This is usually just an older, spare device, wiped completely clean, and set up only with the absolute essentials: boarding passes, maps, ride-sharing, and translation pools. There's literally no personal history on it, no accumulated memes, and zero inside jokes that require context. It's incredibly efficient. It pretty much guarantees a fast screening every single time because there is simply nothing interesting for an officer to scroll through. So as we wrap up this explainer, I really want you to think about the device that's probably sitting in your pocket or your hand right now. As we've seen today, this entire situation isn't about hiding broken laws. It's just about avoiding really slow, incredibly uncomfortable conversations with strangers who hold the power to completely derail your travel plans. So ask yourself, is your phone actually ready for its next international layover? Or is there some old sarcastic group chat buried in there just waiting to delay your trip? Take a little time to audit your digital life before your next flight. After all, your trip should be all about the destination, not about explaining your text to a border agent.